I enjoyed Death Stranding. I mean, sure, the whole game is basically just a walking simulator with like 3 seasons worth of cutscenes and an entire undergrad's worth of lore dumps and tutorial dialogue, but it was an enjoyable experience. And while I haven't played the second game, mostly because I'm tired of giving PlayStation my money for some half-baked hardware, I did look at it and it does look pretty fun. But the thing about Death Stranding that got me really interested to try and play the game was the aesthetic. I love near future aesthetics. I think it looks really neat. And I think in Death Stranding, it really helped to sold the world of Death Stranding when everybody looked and sort of acted how you would kind of expect normal people to act given the circumstance. The acting was, it was okay. It was pretty nice. I think the fact that Sam's entire character is just confused Norman Reedus because Kojima apparently told him jack crap about what the game actually was when he was doing the mocap. It really helped to put the character like make it more relatable because he just looks confused about everything constantly. It was a funny part of the game, but also like the costume design in that game was really nice. Like everything looked like stuff that was sort of near future, like, hey, we could make that in 100 years. And the idea of time travel rain was a little easier to accept when everybody was dressed head to toe in gear. And the whole concept of using the afterlife as an internet proxy server by sacrificing stillborn fetuses to it was a little more acceptable when everybody in the game acted the same way how people acted around fiber optics and 5G internet. And I think that saving the audience's suspension of disbelief like this by making the set designs and the acting more believable and realistic really helps to make people easier to accept all the video game jank and bad writing decisions. And again, it's just a cool aesthetic to me personally. So after playing that game, I wanted to know how well designed are, say, the costumes and the props in Death Stranding from a practical view. Specifically, the thing that's on your screen, like the entire gameplay, which is your backpack. So I actually made myself one and even took a slightly adapted version out hiking with me to an actual mountain. And honestly, despite having this carabiner trying to dig its way through my collarbone, it's not that bad actually. So while I play a B-roll of me trying to show you how to equip the whole thing, let's talk about the overview of the designs first. The backpack itself is a sort of mix between old school alpining backpacks as well as the Molly modular external frame backpacks, or awkward load carriers, and it's attached to the harness system using carabiners where the shoulder straps and hip belt straps would be. And this makes perfect sense for the character because originally Sam was going to be like a military personnel before he got turned into a porter by the design team. So having this thing, which is used by the military usually as well as hikers, makes perfect sense. I really like that design decision, and I think it really matches the aesthetic of utilitarianism that you see in the video game. So I like that part. It also makes perfect sense in the lore because usually backpacks like this are used in the military to carry awkward shaped loads. Think of like say vehicle parts or fuel canisters. And that makes perfect sense because Sam in the game carries all sorts of weird shaped cargo. So having an external frame pack like this makes complete sense, both gameplay wise and lore wise. So I really liked that decision from the design team. As for Sam's harness is based off a tower climbing harness, the kind you see utility workers wear when they're trying to climb transmission towers or communication towers. Except the version in the game is a lot lighter duty than the ones you see in real life. It's missing a few features too, such as the belt that goes around your hip, as well as the seat which supports your buttocks. But it looks pretty cool though, so I'll give it a pass for all those missing features. And again, Sam doesn't really need that. He's not climbing for a sustained amount of time, so he could be forgiven for missing a few of those features. Also, I just want to say that clipping everything in is extremely satisfying. And before I actually give my criticisms about this design, I want to talk about like a few little bits about the game. Like for one, the whole idea of corpse disposal. Now, a big part of the game is that BTs or ghosts, if they consume living humans, they'll cause a void out, which is basically just a nuke going off because apparently the ghosts are made of antimatter or something. That's That's video game logic. I'm not gonna question it. So whatever. Moving on. So a big part of the game is that you have to take corpses, carry it with you to an incinerator, and then burn it so that doesn't happen. And one of the main ways you do that is either hauling them all in a truck or carrying them on your back. And a lot of people think that it's not realistic to carry a corpse on your back, but actually it is. This backpack alone that I made, even though it's made of PVC, it is actually strong enough to carry my friends on the back. And in real life, there are people who have done corpse retrievals off mountains. So, yeah, it's not exactly practical. It is plausible. It is something that happens in real life. So, it's not completely unrealistic. And also, when you play the game, there's a thing called a backpack cover, which is just a cover for your backpack to protect everything inside it from timefall. And I don't get why I have to go so far into the story in order to unlock that. You're telling me that in real life, every backpack that you buy for hiking comes by default with a backpack cover, with a rain cover, except in the world of Death Stranding, where rain can literally kill you, it doesn't. How does that make any sort of sense? Just take whatever material Sam's indestructible pants are made of and use that to cover your cargo. His suit is basically indestructible. Why not just use that? But anyway, I have a few issues with this backpack and harness system from a practicality standpoint, as in if you're trying to use it in real life. For one, it's not a great climbing harness. Well, kind of. Again, it's missing a few features like the hip belt as well as the seat, which is really useful when you're trying to climb at something for a sustained amount of time, like actually working on towers. But mainly, it's missing the most important feature, which is a ring on the back where your main fall arrestor system would hook onto. That part is extremely important, and it really shows that OSHA did not survive the Death Stranding. You could attach a 4-point lanyard to these front accessory loops on your shoulders and on your hips. You know how they would do it with like zip line harnesses? Except we don't actually see Sam doing that. In the first game, whenever Sam gets onto a zip line, he sort of just attaches to the laser rope thing using his cufflinks, which are like handcuffs. And in the second game, he does actually clip his suit onto the zipline itself, which is nice. But going back to the first game, I don't think any real person is going to be able to one arm hang on a zip line while carrying a BMW GS 1250 on their backs. That's just video game logic. And considering that the only instance we see of Sam actually hooking his harness up to any sort of climbing implement is the zip lines in the second game, I'll give this harness design a pass for its actual climbing capabilities. What I can't give it a pass for is the fact that this thing is pretty bad to walk in, which is sort of like the whole point of the game. Like, while it is nice having the load distributed through so many points on your body and having so many accessory loops to attach different cargo, the way the backpack attaches to the suit itself, to the harness itself, is really uncomfortable. And it's mainly because the backpack attaches to your harness with carabiners, like it's sort of an afterthought. It's like they took a climbing harness and said, like, oh, you have accessory loops here. Let's just hook up one of these old molly packs to it. The big problem is that the backpack pulls back on all the straps, putting all the weight of the backpack on the front of your body, which is fine when it's on your chest. Problem is, it also tugs around your femoral artery, which makes walking a lot more tiring. And while the straps form a tourniquet around your thighs, the carabiners around your shoulders create a pressure point that really digs into your shoulders when you actually put weight on this. I mean, this backpack right now, it's completely empty. This is just a casing and it still kind of digs into your shoulders uncomfortably. In the game, the porter suits deal with this by having huge paddings on the shoulders where the carabiners meet, but padding usually inhibits breathability, and at the end of the day, it'll be just a whole lot simpler to have shoulder straps attached directly to the backpack instead of having carabiners attached to a harness system itself. And while the backpack itself does have a hip pad, it doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. In hiking, the hip belt is extremely useful. It moves like 40-60% of the weight of the backpack off your shoulders and onto your hips, which is extremely useful. When I added one to my laptop backpack for college, it felt really nice. Like I would barely really got tired carrying around all my junk to college. And when I made this, with a more conventional harness system, it was really good. I could carry my 23 kilogram little sister, which is like 45% body weight, no problem with that harness system. And let me tell you, after my entire life of slouching over because I'm carrying bags filled to the brim with paper and books, being able to stand up straight while carrying like almost half your body weight on your back was amazing. It makes a world of difference in comfort when you're hiking. But in Death Stranding, with Sam's version, it doesn't really transfer the weight to your hips. It stabilizes it a little bit, not very well, as you could just see, but I guess it looks cool, so it has that. And if I tighten it even more, it cuts off blood circulation to my legs. Yay! But if you still want to wear something like this to actually go out and go hike, because I don't know, maybe you're a nerd like me, I do have a few suggestions on how to fix it. For one, add a belt to the design. And instead of having these top rings go around your legs before being anchored to the backpack itself, just attach the hip belt to that belt on the harness itself. That way, everything is more naturally loaded onto your hips. And these things won't have to sneak around your legs before they actually transfer the load to your body. And while the carabiners are iconic to the look, let's face it, they're not exactly the most practical or comfortable solution. It's a lot easier to just have arm loops bolt directly to the backpack itself instead of having this harness system. And yeah, at that point, it's basically just a conventional external frame backpack with some extra accessory loops and leg stabilizers, but it's conventional for a reason. It's because it works, and it works pretty okay. And that's how I actually took this thing to go hiking and found out that it's actually pretty comfortable for carrying cargo. I simply had a more conventional harness system that was able to bolt on and off the backpack itself to make it more conventional, just external frame backpack. And as a conventional external frame backpack, it was pretty comfortable. I mean, it makes sense. It's based off existing backpacks, but it is actually pretty nice. It was really comfortable. And now I think I do understand a little bit more why there's a lot of older hikers that still swear by their old school external frame backpacks. It is genuinely pretty nice and pretty comfortable for carrying loads that are a little bit heavy. So after weeks of making these two, what are my final thoughts? Well, I think that the backpack design is actually pretty solid, which makes sense because it's based off the life backpack designs that actually work. I think this is pretty solid. I think it feels pretty comfortable for carrying both conventional and awkward shaped loads. Like I carried motorcycle tires with this. It was actually pretty nice. And I think the artists and designers that worked on the game did really good job on making everything look nice. I really enjoyed the visuals of that game. And I just wish that this harness system would have worked better than it did in game because I spent a lot of time on it, and it's just unfortunate that the design itself isn't super great. But it was enjoyable to make either way, and besides, I can still use the backpack without this harness system, just using a more conventional harness system attached to it. So at the end of the day, I don't really lose anything with this being non-functional, except maybe a bit of time, but it was time well spent doing something I like, which is making things. So thanks for listening to my nerdy breakdown, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making this video and making these cosplay props. And I'll see you next time.